Hi, it's Bishop Mark. Today is Luke chapter 10, verses 30 to 37. And this set of verses has a name. It's called the story of the Good Samaritan. The story of the Good Samaritan is a story that Jesus tells in answer to the question that we ended with yesterday in verse 29. Who is my neighbor? Okay, quick summary. You remember this. The scholar of the law was trying to test Jesus. So he asked him, what is the greatest commandment? And Jesus asked him to tell him himself. And then the scholar of the law combines two commandments, one from Deuteronomy, the other from Leviticus, just as Jesus had. Okay, the first one was the one we call the Shema, and it's the prayer that every Jew knows, and it's about hear, O Israel. That's the word Shema is hear, and it's about loving God with all your heart, with all your being, with all your strength, with all your mind. And then the scholar of the law adds something that Jesus has added. So that's, and your neighbor as yourself, which was unusual. And Jesus hears that he listened to him and he says, you are correct. But then the scholar of the law, he wants to test Jesus. So he says, and who is my neighbor? Okay. So these are the verses where Jesus responds to that important question. Who is my neighbor? Jesus replied, a man fell victim to robbers as he went down from Jerusalem to Jericho. Okay, that may not mean anything, that may not bring anything visual to your mind, Jerusalem to Jericho, so let me do that first. Jerusalem is the most important city, of course, and it's on a mountain. This mountain is called Zion, Mount Zion. That's where Jerusalem is. And Jericho is not on Mount Zion. In fact, it's on the very low, below sea level, because it's near the Dead Sea. So the road from Jerusalem to Jericho is famous because it's all downhill. And because it's all downhill, it curves and winds, and it's a road with many twists and turns, and it's rocky, and it's not an easy walk. And because it's all those twists and turns and rockiness and all, it's well known that bad people are there, robbers are there, and they hide behind the twists and turns and they attack people there. It's just a bad road to walk on. And you would never walk it alone. It has such a reputation, everyone knows this. If you know there's a place that's just going to get you in trouble if you go there alone, well, you don't go there. But this man that Jesus is talking about, he went by himself on this road where he was very likely to be robbed. So when we hear just man robbed in Jerusalem to Jericho, we think, oh, that's terrible. Well, it is terrible, but it's also a foolish man. He shouldn't have been there alone. So the man is walking from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he fell victim to robbers. Okay. So they've robbed him. Now the man is on the side of the road, and the poor man is beat up. They stripped him and beat him and went off, leaving him half dead. So that poor man is helpless, beat up, robbed. He's just terribly hurt on the side of the road. Okay. A priest happened to be going down that road, but when he saw him, he passed by on the opposite side. Likewise, a Levite came to the place, and when he saw him, he passed by on the opposite side. Okay, It's interesting that Jesus chose a priest and a Levite. Now, it's quite possible that the man was robbed in the dark and these two are walking in the light. Or maybe they have people with them. But both of them have the same reaction. Now, when we're talking about a priest and a Levite, you might ask, aren't they the same thing? So, all priests are Levites, meaning they come from the tribe of Levi. So all the priests in the Jewish faith come from the tribe of Levi. So they're all distantly related to this ancestor Levi. But not all Levites, not all the ancestors, are priests. Do you see the difference? So the priest is a Levite, but he's specifically a priest, and therefore he has things to do in the temple, and he is someone who has to keep himself pure. The Levite, who's not a priest, he doesn't have the same duties in the temple, so he doesn't necessarily have to keep himself free from sin. But they both have the same reaction. They see the guy there, half dead on the side of the road, and they both go to the opposite side of the road and walk by him. Now, presumably they walk by for two different reasons, although it's hard to tell in this gospel. But the priest has to keep himself pure, ritually pure, for the temple worship. If the priest, who might assume that the man is dead, if the priest touched the dead man, he would be impure himself, not able to go to the temple for a while. So his reason for going by, perhaps, was a religious reason. I can't touch that dead man, otherwise I can't do my duties in the temple, so I'm just going to ignore him and walk by. The Levite, who's not a priest, doesn't have the same duties, but he might be worried about other things. For example, there might be other robbers. Sometimes they did awful things, like they would fake being hurt on the side of the road. People would come to help them and then they'd get robbed themselves. So he's just afraid of the whole situation and he just wants to head to Jericho. He wants to get by. The priest probably has the excuse of not wanting to be impure, not pure for the temple. And the Levite has a different reason, maybe just afraid. But both of them ignore the guy and walk by. Okay, now. But a Samaritan, now the Samaritans are the people from Samaria. They are not Jewish. And the Jews have troubles with them. So when the hearer of Jesus hears Samaritan, they might think, well, that's the robber. Because the Samaritans were low in the sight of the Jewish people. So when they hear about a Samaritan, they're thinking, oh, here comes the robber. But here's what happens. But a Samaritan traveler who came upon him was moved with compassion at the sight. He approached the victim, poured oil and wine over his wounds, and bandaged them. So here comes a Samaritan who the Jews think, he's not my neighbor. In fact, he's probably the robber. He comes, and the Samaritan has compassion for the man. And he helps him. He tries to fix his wounds, and he bandaged them. And he tried to wash them in the oil and the wine. And like the wine is perhaps something that helps the disinfecting, right? So the Samaritan gets off, goes to him, doesn't walk on the other side of the road, goes to him, helps him, tries to heal him with bandaging, and then he lifted him up on his own animal, took him to an inn, and cared for him. Wow. So the Samaritan is driving by, and he puts him on the mule or the ox or the horse or whatever he has, a donkey, and he takes him to an inn. The next day, he took out 2 silver coins and gave them to the innkeeper with the instruction, "Take care of him. If you spend more than what I have given you, I shall repay you on my way back." Okay, so he's really gone all out for the man. He not only pays for his care at the inn, but says, if it's more than that, I'll come and take it. In other words, the Samaritan is a good person. The Samaritan helped the man, and the Samaritan has a reputation in the inn such that the innkeeper did not suspect him of not paying him back. So this Samaritan is a special man who helped the traveler. Okay. So Jesus has told that story. Which of these 3, in your opinion, was neighbor to the robber's victim? So the man had asked, who is my neighbor? He tells a story where there's 3 people that could be the help the person. 2 walk by, one for religious reasons, but the more important thing is to help the man in Jesus' eye. The other for cautious reasons, perhaps, and he didn't help the person, but the Samaritan helped the person. So who's the neighbor here? He, meaning the scholar of the law, he answered, the one who treated him with mercy. Jesus said to him, go and do likewise. So who is my neighbor? Anyone. All people. We have to treat people with mercy. We have to treat people with compassion. When we start thinking, oh, my religion keeps me away from some people, well, that's not what Jesus is preaching here, is it? No, Jesus is preaching, love your neighbor as yourself. And to the question, who's my neighbor? It's not just the Jews. It's all God's people. Okay, peace to you.